Hi, Julie Watts here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be using one of the new Fairy Hugs Magical Scenes sets. We're going to be using the Woodland family. We're also going to be using the Much Joy sentiment scene and the new Enchantment paper pad as well. So there are 10 new magical scenes and they're roughly 4.5 inches in diameter. And there are 10 new sentiment scenes as well. And there are kind of duos. So this one, Much Joy, has got a little reindeer on it, a spooky moon and some trees, which coordinate with the reindeers, the spooky moon and the trees that are on the bigger one as well. And there's also meadow grass on this one. And you will find that with the scenes, they're all stamps that have been available previously, but they're resized and they're put into scenes for you so that you don't have to think about it and you don't have to worry about masking and setting the scene up. You can just stamp and go. And the new Enchantment paper pad is, as always, 6x6, 24 double-sided sheets, 24 designs, 2 sheets of each, and 216 GSM. You can use some of the Tumble Shine paper pads as well. Some of those are the correct size, but there are a couple of different sizes in Tumble Shine. These are all the same size, and as you can see, they're double-sided and they're jelly plate prints already done for you with some inky backgrounds. So if you've got a jelly plate 4-inch round, that will probably do the job as well. But these are obviously on that lovely smooth card that takes the ink really well and really helps you out. So let's crack on. I'm going to do the stamping first, so we're going to get that out of the way and then we'll put it into a proper card that opens and everything. So I've chosen this one and I've just trimmed it to 5.5 inches square. And don't worry, there's 2 sides to it, so if you make a mess like I've just done, you can have another go on the other side. Let's stamp the big stamp first. So a stamping platform is essential and I'm using the Press to Impress. Let's pop our piece in the corner here and see. Not sure if we'll be able to use that magnet or not. In fact, let's use this smaller magnet that actually comes with it. Colourful magnets. And I've just used this stamp set, and what I'm going to do, so I don't get ink everywhere while I'm positioning it, I'm going to take the acetate with the design on it and I'm going to pop this down here, and you can see this is how it's going to be when it's stamped. And I have got a little bit of ink there as well. And so you can see that the bottom here is going to marry up beautifully with the actual design itself. Might not do when I stamp it, but it doesn't matter. It's a piece of paper. So let's see if we can get this roughly in the same position, like so. I think we're going to have to get rid of that magnet. Just because it might be in the way. Although we just get a bit of ink on it, it won't matter. Okay, so make sure it's really butted up into the corners, and we're going for Pinecone Versafine Clair. I should mention that everything you're seeing is available on my website, juliawattscrafts.co.uk. for shipping to UK addresses, and the new Fairy Hugs stamps and the new paper pad are only available from myself in the UK, not available from Create and Craft, certainly not for the foreseeable future. Also, you can get them from fairyhugs.com for worldwide shipping. So let's ink this up with our Pinecone. Versafine Clairs are brilliant for this sort of stamping. I haven't got an air bubble. I should have rolled it back down again, but I think I'm okay. I don't think there's an air bubble. butted up. I'm paranoid of making sure it's butted up to the edge. I'm going to give it a good old press. I know we'll have to stamp this a couple of times because it's a silhouette stamp. Just press around the stamp. I think I've got an air bubble there as well. You can see where the stamp comes away and you can't see the ink. It's too late now. Give that ink a really good chance to settle in. And we'll see how we go. Not sure what's rattling on my desk. Not too shoddy actually. I'm just going to go a little bit because there's a little bit of his back that's missing. So we might as well just do it all again to make it a little bit darker. But I am pretty happy with that actually. It is a good idea before you go to your papers to actually stamp it off onto some paper anyway. I think this design is going to be brilliant for Christmas, so I think you're going to be wanting to stamp this in lots of different ways. Obviously you can stamp it in lots of different colours. This one as well, you don't need to colour in, especially if you're using one of the coloured backgrounds, one of the papers. It's all good to go straight away. You could add a little bit of glitter or a little bit of white gel pen on the trees to make it look snowy if you want to. We're just going to use it as is because as a batch making piece it works really, really well. Obviously once this is positioned on your stamping platform, you can just trim down your other pieces or your other backgrounds to be 5.5 inches square, and it's all going to fit in the same place every time. As long as you've remembered that when you trim down a circle or a circle piece like this, that you actually do, let's see, yes, 1/4 of an inch on one side, 1/4 of an inch on the other, and a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So it trims to 5 3/4 inches first, and then 5.5 inches on the last two sides, if that makes sense. Makes sense to me. Okay, so there's our wonderful scene there. All good to go. Job done. Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's fetch this up here. Do as much cleaning as I ever do, just so I don't get quite such inky fingers. And I pick it up. They will get grubby, and if you want to, you could trim down the stamp a little bit, but just don't go too close to the actual design. Let's get it on the back. Line it up, kind of. Can't remember which side's got ink on it now, but it should be all right. So this is obviously going into my packaging, and you can see I number them all, and then I can just flick through, and I keep them in number order as well. So now let's do our little sentiment. I'm going to put a bit of kitchen roll in here now. Last one on the sheet, on the roll, so it's a little bit higgledy-piggledy. That doesn't matter. I don't really want creases in it though. Okay, so I've got a couple of circles somewhere here. Cut out using the Sentimentally Yours Debossed double stitch circles. Now it's really, really good to have circle dies in your stash if you're going to be using these. Obviously you don't have to, you could just, I mean, because you've got the background, this is a square card. You don't need a circle die if you haven't got one. But it just gives you more possibilities, and my magnets are stopped at that. And you'll find these on my website as well. So those are the Sentimentally Yours Debossed double stitch circles. So I've got this one here, and I'm going to pop a tiny bit of PVA on the back, like so. Just a scribble, and you see, and not very much at all. And I'm going to pop that in the circle here, because I might not be able to get my magnets on here. And we're going to use the small Much Joy that says, may your joys be many and your troubles be few. And you can see you've got the same, as I said, you've got the same stamps as we've used with the main image. And it's a circle, so it doesn't really matter if it's not straight. It's going in there like so. I can actually get a couple of magnets on there as well, which is good. Pick that up. Don't move. And then again, we're going to stamp that using Pinecone. And I've used this from, I found in my stash some 300 GSM card. So I'm using this because I've actually constructed a card from it as well. And it seems to be quite smooth. I don't know what it's like to watercolour because I haven't tried that yet. And I have looked and I can't get it anymore. It doesn't exist, but I thought I might as well use it. So I don't normally buy card blanks. I make them myself. But sometimes you want a 6x6 or an 8x8 card and I haven't got any. So I need to fix that. Give it a good old press. Remember, this isn't the same as the background paper that we've been stamping on, so I'm giving it a little bit more time. It is easier to stamp the smaller stamps. Always, it's easier to stamp small stamps than big stamps. So we might get this first time. We have. Is that a dirty mark or it is? Oh, never mind. Never mind. And that's going to come off there. It doesn't matter that there's a bit of kitchen roll on the back. Okay. And it doesn't matter that that's all messy either because we're going to fix that as well. A little bit annoyed about that. I'll fix that. There's always a fix. I don't know where that dirty mark came from. I don't think it came from my fingers. I have got another one actually. Is it the same size? It is, it's the same size. Let's do it again, just in case. These are just offcuts actually, where I've cut a circle out, a frame, and so I've cut a centre as well. There's a dirty mark there as well. How on earth am I getting dirty marks all over everything? This is an adhesive eraser. And obviously I've moved it, it's in a different place. And that's got ink on it, so I'm going to pop this down on here, just like I did before. Pick it up. Pop it on the top. You know when you have days, this is one of those days. It's definitely one of those days I'm having. Oh, I can't do that yet. Pick it up. Remember to take your acetate off, otherwise you'll ink your acetate, and that is not what you want. I think a magnet would go there, isn't it? Go there. Yes, and I can get one just down there as well. Let's double check. Yep. So go again. I'm not going to get a dirty mark on this one. Give it a chance again to settle in to the card. Obviously it's a little bit harder to do your batch making with this because you have to reposition it each time, but it doesn't take very long. Right, good. Excellent. Happy with that. Catch that off. Don't worry about that. Okay. And let's just fetch this off here. Back in our little sleeve with its little label on it. Okay, so that's all the stamping all done. Easy peasy. Well, if you do it right, obviously. I hate dirty marks. I can't live with dirty marks. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take our card blank. So this is a piece of that 300 GSM heavyweight card, and all I've done is I've scored it into half, and then I've squared it off. So it's about 14.8 centimetres, which is just over 5 3/4 inches square. And I've taken one of the double debossed stitched circles. So I've taken this one, which is from the centre. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the 8th one, and I've cut that out. And we're going to open it up. We're going to take a piece of low tack tape and just run it just along the fold so that we don't ink on the back of the card, because we're going to ink through a stencil now, like so. And I've got the Flower Vines stencil. I'm going to pick it up. This is a Flower Vine stencil from Fairy Hugs, and we're going to just pop that on the front. And we will get a little border as well. This is just under 6 by 6. And I selected peeled paint to go with this lovely background on the main image. And I've just used Distress ink rather than Distress Oxide, because I've got Distress ink on my brushes and I want to use my brushes rather than a sponge through my stencil. All my brushes have got Distress ink on rather than Oxide. It's just the way it's turned out. So it's up to you. You're not stamping on top of it, so it doesn't matter. I don't want to be... Okay, so just circular motions through our stencil. Obviously you don't need to go in the middle because there's nothing in the middle. There might be another colour on here because we used these sponges in the workshop yesterday. So it might not be exactly peel paint, but it's green. And I don't clean my brushes. You don't need to a lot of the time because the ink will stay wet for such a long time on the brushes and the little sponges as well, that sometimes you don't even need to dip if you just want a light inking. And you will find all the stencils, all the Fairy Hug stencils in stock on my website too, as well as all the papers. If a paper's out of stock, then it could be that I've got to order more in, or it could be that there's no stock available at the moment at Fairy Hugs HQ. I normally get a delivery at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. But obviously, because it's coming from the States, I tend to put in big orders at a time rather than just lots of small orders. So there's our stencil ink. Obviously that's going to wash off under the tap because it's Distress ink, no problem. So now we're going to peel this away carefully so I don't rip the card on the fold. It's not brilliant card for folding actually, but you know, you work with what you've got. Pretty, isn't that pretty? Let's just clean up so we don't get this on the rest of our card. we're also going to, while we're using peel paint, we're also going to bring in another piece of, let's use that kitchen roll from my stamping platform. And the magnets are bumping to see each other. I don't want to smudge my ink. We're going to just bring in a little bit of peel paint just around the edges here. Looking a bit more rustic wilderness than peel paint around the edge here. Probably a bit of a mix of both. Just to take the starkness of the white off, like so. I don't know if you can see. Let's lift it up so you can see. Just a little bit of green. And we're also going to do the same kind of thing around the edges of this as well. And I'm just using the kitchen roll so that to hold it, so that I don't smudge the ink, because the ink will probably still be a bit wet. Again, you could use oxides if you wanted to. Just so that when it goes in my card, it stands out a little bit rather than just being the white. And also if your whites are different, because not all whites are the same, then it kind of changes it a little bit as well. Don't overthink inking around the edges of anything. Just kind of go for it. The sponges are actually a bit friendlier than the brushes are a bit friendlier than the sponges if you're new to this kind of thing. So you see we've got just a little bit of a hue around the edges there. Okay, so that's that. Obviously now we're going to clean up again. And we'll just show you what else is going to happen. So we're nearly finished actually. So this is obviously going to go in here, and you're going to be able to see through the aperture the design like that, but that's a little bit boring. So what I've done is I've used the same circle and the next one up, and I've created a frame, and that's going to set it off a little bit more. But to make it nice and neat as well, I've cut a frame for on the inside, so that's going to get glued as well. And for my sentiment, I'm going to put my sentiment, I can put it down here, but I think up here is the best because it doesn't block out the little deer, that's what they're called. But if we open it up and you look, you can see where I've got this torn stuff there. So we're going to glue these two together like that, and then when you look in, it's going to be nice and neat. So it's going to be nice and neat all over. So let me do this little bit of gluing, and then I'll show you how I'm going to stick the inside piece in. Okay, so I'm all glued on the front, so we've got this nice neat frame on the front, and obviously when you open it up you can see that nice piece there. I've glued my sentiment to its backer piece as well, but I'm not going to put that on until we've got our main piece on. So obviously because we want to have it nice and neat, you can't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily follow that if you put it equal parts there that it will actually that's not too bad, but you can see it's not 100% here. It's to do with the fact that I don't measure where my aperture is going to be, so it's all down to me really. Okay, so to fix that, the easiest thing to do is to get some low tack tape, a couple of pieces of that, and actually look at your frame here and line it up where you want it. obviously you want it straightish. If you look on the back, you can see that's going to be straightish inside. Okay. I know it's a bit fiddly. Let's move it over a bit. I want that to be in the centre. I don't want it to look awful. And I don't want that to look wonky either. Let's have a look now. Just take a little bit of time, a bit of patience. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just put a little low tack tape on there like that, and we're going to put a little bit of low tack tape bigger there like that. That looks pretty good. And on the back it's wonky again. Oh, for heaven's sake, I'll make it look worse than it is. That'll do. We're good now. We're good now, look. Okay, that looks quite evenish there. So now, because it's nice and positioned, we can put glue on the back. It's always easy when you do it on your own, not in front of a camera. Don't put loads of glue. I'm just really drawing with my glue. This is Sentimentally Yours PVA. Lasts such a long time in the big pot. And then just fold this over and give it a good press. Then we can take off our tape. This might pick a little bit of ink up, but that's fine. Yeah, a little bit. And then we've got our inside. Perfect. Really pretty. So we'll put our sentiment on now. And I am going to put it on with a little bit of foam tape, I think. Which I didn't get out. I'm going to use 1mm foam tape and scissors. Just going to pop it here. Because obviously the card, this card is a bit higher. I'm just going to pop it here like that. And I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on there as well. Just a little bit. Make sure it's nice and straight. I think we're going to have it like that. So when we open it, you can see it's nice and neat because you've got 2 layers of card there. And there we go. I mean, you could actually, thinking about it, I could have inked around the edges as well of that, but I didn't. It's too late now. But yeah, stands up and everything. I have made another card like this as well, wherever I'll put it. One of the other designs, because it will work with all the designs. So again, here on the inside, I've got the scene, which is, let me look at the name for you. It is Swinging Delight. And the sentiment is the fairy little things, just learning the names. And I've used a Pebble Beach stencil around the edge of that one. So same but different, exactly the same technique for those. Let's move that over so you can see. but makes a really nice card. And obviously that's fairly flat, so that's going to go in your 6x6 envelopes as well. So once again, you can find the new magical scenes and the magical sentiments, or scene sentiments, on my website juliawattscrafts.co.uk for shipping to UK addresses. And they're only available from me in the UK, they're not available anywhere else. And you can also find them from fairyhugs.com. Do like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. There are a lot of Fairy Hugs videos on there for you to look at. And I always love to read your comments. And do look out for the other videos on my channel as well. And thank you for watching.